Okay, here's a quick little tutorial on how to use Desmos. So go to desmos.com, start graphing, and then there you go. Right away we can start graphing. So I'm going to punch in an equation here, y equals 2x plus 3. Now this is a line. If you don't understand that, that's fine. You don't have to. You can use it even without understanding it, and you can play around with it and see how it changes. So here's what we want to play around with. I basically want to change these two numbers, 2 and 3, and see what happens. So I can change the 3 to a 4, maybe change it to a 7. I could change it to minus 9, and I can see how the line is changing. I can also change the 2, change it to a 3, or a 1. Maybe I can change it to a 0.5, or how about a negative number, -2. I can even change it to some crazy decimal, and hopefully by playing around with it, you can kind of understand what each of these numbers does. So that's how you make a line, and it always looks something like this, with y equals a number multiplied by x plus another number. Actually, you don't need that last number. You can just leave it as y equals 2x, and that still gives a line. And actually, you don't even need the x. An interesting thing happens if you delete the x. You get a horizontal line, and another thing you can try is just x equals 5, and you get a vertical line. Anyway, those are special cases. Okay, I'm going to leave up that original line, y equals 2x plus 3. Now, press enter or return, and it's going to automatically make a space for another equation. I'm going to show you how to do a circle. So we want to do x squared, first of all. Now, how to do the squared, the long way is go down here to the bottom left, find the keyboard, and press the squared button, and that gives x squared. The short way is to use the hat button, which is the little symbol above the 6 on a keyboard. So you use shift 6, and it automatically goes to exponent. So anyway, x squared plus y squared equals, and then a number, let's say 9, and that makes a circle. So once again, we want to try to play around with this and see what happens. So change the 9 to a different number, like 11. Did you notice what changed? Try different numbers and see what changes. I'll make it much bigger, 110. Okay, it's just obviously a much bigger circle. If I would just make it 1, it's very small, or let's say 0.1, really small, and so on. Now, okay, let's move on. I'm going to show you another circle. This one's going to be more complicated because we don't always want the circle to be right at the center. We want to be able to move it around because then you can make cooler art. So this equation is going to be more complicated, but you can still do it. So start with brackets. You're going to do x minus, say, 4. Close the bracket, then put the squared in, plus, and then the same thing for y minus 9 squared equals, let's do 9 again. So the circle is a little bit off the screen, so I'm going to zoom out, and there you go, you can see it there. Now, once again, if I change these numbers, you can see what happens when I change these numbers. I can still change the 9, that's still going to change the size of the circle, and I can make these pluses instead of minuses, and that's going to change things around as well. Okay, and then the last type of equation I'm going to show you is a wave, and this is a crazy one. You don't even learn about this till grade 11 math, but once again, you don't need to understand it to use it. It's kind of fun to just see what it looks like and try to use it in an artistic way, even if you're not doing all of the possible math involving this shape. So it goes like this: y equals sin, that's called sine, and you can see it if you click on functions here. It's actually one of the functions in here, but you can just type it in. Y equals sine x, and there you go. It's a wave. And you can move this around by adding a number, like say plus 5 moves it up, change it to a minus, moves it down, or if you put a number in front of sine x, then it makes it taller, or you can make it shorter by making it a small number. Okay, now I'm going to show you 2 more techniques. These are all the different types of shapes I'm showing you for now, but I'm going to show you 2 more techniques to make your Desmos art more artistic. Okay, so let me actually get rid of everything except the line, and I'm going to make it more of a flat line. Okay, so first of all, sometimes you don't want the line to go on forever. Sometimes you just want to do a little a little bit of a line because you want to, say, make a picture out of lines. So what you do is you make a restriction. Let's say I want this line to only go up to here. Now if you look on the x-axis, it's 10. So I want it to be only up to 10 along the x-axis. So here's how to do that. Open up a curly bracket after you've already written the equation of the line, and you're going to say x is less than 10, and that's it. It actually makes sense. Once again, this is complex math, but you know less than symbols, so it should still make sense. So x is less than 10, and so it cuts it off right there at 10 along the x-axis. Now let's say I only want it to go over to here on the left side. So that is still on the x-axis, and it's negative 15. So I'm going to add another restriction, another set of curly brackets. X is greater than negative 15. So now we just have a line segment instead of a line. And as a matter of fact, there is a way of combining these two restrictions into one restriction, which can save you some time. So instead of writing two different curly brackets, I can do it like this. This is a little bit more complicated, but if you get used to it, it'll save you time. So you say negative 15, you do the smaller one first, is less than x, which is less than 10. Okay, now let me just show you how this works with a circle as well. So once again, here's the equation of a circle, x squared plus y squared equals 9. If I say that x must be less than 0, then we only get the left half of the circle. Because look, 0 is right here, so we're only going less than 0, which means to the left of 0. So it only gives the left half of the circle. Now, another thing that I should point out is that you can do restrictions for y, not just for x. So if I change this to a y, now it's giving the bottom half of the circle, because the y-axis, remember, is the vertical part. So if we're saying that the vertical part is always less than 0, then it only gives the bottom part of the circle. What if I change this number 0? If I change it to, say, 1, well, now it gives more than half the circle, but it still cuts it off. But it cuts it off at 1 along the y-axis instead of at 0. One more thing you can do a restriction on y and a restriction on x. So let's say I say x is greater than 2. Now look at this. This is very interesting. So basically imagine this whole circle is here, but imagine you're cutting it off on 2 on the x-axis, so it's only to the right of 2. And at the same time, you're also chopping it right here along 1 on the y-axis. So you're only getting anything below 1, but to the right of 2. And so you just get this little arc of a circle. Okay, then the last thing I want to show you is shading, because sometimes it's nice to have shading in your picture in order to make it more artistic. So all you have to do here is you take the equal sign, delete it, and change it to a less than sign. So now the reason it's shaded is because it's showing you everything under the line. It's shading everything under the line because you're saying y is less than this equation of this line. Now think for a second, if I change this to greater than instead of less than, what do you think is going to happen? Picture it in your head. So it shades above instead of below. Let's see how this works for the other shapes as well. So once again, a circle, let's say x squared plus y squared equals 9. And I change that to less than. So now it's a shaded end circle. If I change this to a greater than, well, it's kind of weird actually when I have the line. Let me turn off the line by clicking on the left. I'm going to change this to a greater than. So now it's shading everything except the circle, which is pretty cool. And one more, I'll just show you the wave, y equals sine x. And if I change this to a less than, oh, now that is nice. Desmos automatically picks the colors for you, and it just so happens that it picked blue, so it looks just like the ocean. So that's really, really nice. Okay, and if I change this to greater than, well, now it looks a little weird. I guess maybe it looks like the sky now, above the waves. And okay, and there we go. And let me show you one more thing. So let me show you a combination where I do both shading and restrictions. So here is our shaded line, but now if I put restrictions on it, so say -7 is less than x, which is less than 4. So look at that, we have a line segment because of the restrictions here, and we also have shading. So it's shaded everything beneath that line segment, but only right beneath that line segment. And that's pretty cool. So there are some techniques for making art with Desmos.